welcome to the Little Blue Pot. It's Jem here. Thank you for joining me, YouTube. I hope you are well, and thank you for clicking on the Personal Independence Payment, or PIP, explained. I'm going to do my best to explain the process of claiming for PIP, who it's available for, what it is, as much as information as I can. I won't be talking about how to appeal. I'm going to do that in a separate video because that's a bit more of a makes it a much longer video, and some people may not even, hopefully most of you won't need to get to that appeal stage. So I'm going to go through information that I've taken from the Money Advice Service. Information is in the description below, so I'm going to do my best to explain it for you now. Please check out my other videos as well, which is more about my personal experience of the Personal Independence Payment. Links for those are also in the description. Right, let's get going. So the Personal Independence Payment, or PIP, is something that helps with the extra costs of disability or long-term health conditions for people aged 16 to 64. It's non-means tested, so this means it doesn't matter how much you earn, whether you've got savings, whether you've got any capital, whether you're working or whether you're not working, you can claim it, okay? Especially if you are battling with such things as day-to-day living, mobility issues, etc. It is for people with all types of conditions, mainly people talking about physical disability, but more recently they are trying to support more people with mental illness, because some of the things I will go through today can affect you if you have mental illness. I personally think if anyone is severely impaired, unable to do their daily tasks, are immobile, or anyone that is suffering so much so that they can't do the daily tasks that maybe others can, should be able to claim this, but some of you may disagree with that. So who can receive the Personal Independence Payment? Well, to get PIP, you must need help with everyday tasks or getting around. Kind of just touched on that, or have needed this help for at least 3 months and expected to want to need it for the next 9 months, unless you're terminally ill with less than 6 months to live. It's a bit dark there. PIP is made up of 2 components: the mobility component, so it might be paid if you need help getting about, or the daily living component, which might be paid if you need help carrying out daily activities such as washing or dressing. Now, some people may argue that people with mental illness may not struggle with those, but I would say I do sometimes struggle with daily tasks. I can struggle getting dressed sometimes. I can struggle with preparing a meal, going to the shops to buy food, to going out and seeing people. Those things do impact me very differently to people with physical disabilities. I would say if you are battling with the day-to-day living of going through life, or that you're having problems being mobile, then this is definitely something for you. So each component can be paid either at a standard or enhanced rate, and depending on how your condition affects you, you could have either mobility and daily living, or one on their own. So you could be paid if you're claiming, for example, the daily living component, you could be paid up to £55.65 a week for standard rates. If you are daily living component, again, you could get an enhanced weekly rate of up to £83.10. And if you are claiming for the mobility, this would be on top. If you were claiming for both, you can get up to £22 per week on the standard rate, and £58 for the enhanced weekly rate. So that's per week for each one. So how do you apply? Let's go through the PIP process. Initially, you need to call and claim on the phone. I'm going to put all the numbers in the description below. So you make that phone call and they'll ask you some questions about your situation, and basically say actually you are eligible or you're not eligible. And based on that conversation, if you are eligible, they will then send you a form. If you are not eligible but you think you are, then you need to go through more about the appeal, and I will put that in a second video. But hopefully if you've sort of thought, okay, I do struggle with mobility, I do struggle with daily living, then that could be something that they can support you with, and you are completely entitled to it whether you work or not. So once you've done that phone call, I was very lucky. I gave permission for my partner to speak for me. I don't know if they can still do that. I initially did a bit of speaking, and then we'd pass the phone backwards and forwards, so I had to answer some of it, and then my partner could answer the rest. I don't know why I'm saying partner, you all know who Andy is. And that was great. On the phone, the person I spoke to was really, really lovely, really, really helpful. But share with me your experience if you've had something completely different there as far as being helped or being not helped at all. So that's part one. The second is the form. And the form, I'd say form is not the right word. It's a booklet. It's at least 15 to 20 pages, and it does come in the form of like stapled down the middle and as a booklet. And there's many questions. There's the mobility questions and then the daily living questions. I'll give you a couple of examples here. One of the questions could be, are you able to wash yourself? Are you able to dress and wash yourself? Now, for someone like me who can struggle to do that because of their body dysmorphia, because of anxiety, because of depression, because of depending on what mood they are in their sort of up and down cycle of BPD, sometimes I can't get dressed. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Whereas someone I know who has bipolar, most of the time is okay to dress herself. But other times when she's had severe psychosis and things like that, she's not been able to. So it's about kind of saying to them, on your worst day, can you dress yourself on your worst day? It's very different to someone who physically, because of their limbs, because of their body movement, because of limited body movement, that maybe every day they struggle to get dressed. So think about what, when each question is asked on the form, that's just one of the examples. Think about how you experience it. Are there days when you can't dress yourself or wash yourself? And other ones like preparing meals, or being outside, or do you have to have any kind of any added things in your house, for example handrails or seats and things like that? Sometimes I do need to sit down in the shower. Sometimes I do, because I might be in pain from my fibro, but fibro is a separate thing. But some people, just try and think about your worst day when you are doing this form. Sorry guys, I'm a bit all over the place as always. But when you are completing the booklet, the form booklet, go through and think about your worst day. Don't think about maybe your best day, because that may be few and far between. And if there are days when you think you're better than others, think about the ones that you're not. I'm not trying to say, mess with the system, let's just do what we can to get as many benefits as we can. But I think a lot of people are scared to put how debilitating mental illness can be. And I think, and I probably will keep saying this, mental illness, physical illness should be treated the same way. Therefore, disability should be viewed in the same way. But some people may not completely agree with that. So and the form, by the way, the booklet is called How Your Disability Affects You, because mental illness is a disability. It's just very different to other disabilities, but we still need to be considering it as a disability. Once you've completed the form, you send it back to the Department of Work and Pensions, which is the DWP, and they will make a decision. Now, with the form, you are supposed to send, and I recommend sending as much stuff as you can. So information from your GP, if you have a care coordinator, information from them. If you are seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist, information from them. They are always very, very happy to supply these things, but it can take a while. So make sure that when you send the form off, you have got everything included. And I think you can even get notes from your carers or your loved ones. Put in as much as you can, because the more information you give them, the more they will be able to make a decision. Doesn't necessarily mean you won't have an assessment, because the assessment doesn't happen for everyone. I'll get onto that in a sec, sorry. But make sure you put in as much, and speak to your psychiatrist, speak to your GP, speak to someone and say, what do you think I need to write here if you're not sure? Or maybe watch videos on YouTube to get some more ideas. But try and put as much information as possible, and think about how it affects your life, how it affects your daily living, how it can affect your mobility. And again, I'm not trying to cheat the system here, but being as honest as possible will help you to get more of an honest response from them. I would say that the physical and mental illnesses are still not being treated the same, especially by some places such as the DWP, but we can keep trying and we can keep persevering. So that's step 3. So we do the claim by the telephone, then we do the booklet, then the DWP receives the form. Number 4 is the assessment, or possibly not. When they receive the form, this could take a few weeks. for them to receive it, go through everything, read everything. They may even need to contact other people to get other documents, but on the whole it would probably take about 2 or 3 weeks. If you've had it longer than that, then that just shows that we're very under-resourced. But it should take that time, and they will come back to you either letter or by text, sometimes both, sometimes very confusingly at different times, but go by the most up-to-date thing you've been given. If they've sent you a letter but it's dated 2 weeks ago, and they've sent you a text and the text came yesterday or the day before, go by that as the most current information. Or if you are feeling confused, they've sent me a letter and that's asking me for one thing and they've sent me this for another thing, then call them and say what's going on, what do you need from me? It says that I'm going to need an assessment, and other things it says maybe that you require more information. So find out from them. There's no harm in calling them up, and even if you want to call them up and say, have you received the form, that's okay as well. And if you're not comfortable to do it, then maybe say that I've given permission to this person to make this phone call. So if they don't want to see you for an assessment, this could be a very positive thing. It means you don't have to go through the stress of going to that assessment. But it does mean that you're probably really quite poorly, and they will make a decision not based on seeing you at all, but you're all based on your form. So there's pros and cons. Sometimes I think it's better to see them, but then the stress and the anxiety that can bring can make us quite poorly. So it depends on how you view it. I mean, would you rather not have the assessment, or would you quite happily sort of say, no, if I see them, then I'm more likely to get it? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on any of this. Please do. So number 4 if would be either have the assessment or not. I'm going to talk about the assessment in particular now, because I know that's from my experience. I've had to have the assessment twice. And this is for first claims as well. So the first time you need to do this is put in that phone call, do the booklet, etc. When you're when you're asking for the next one, or your second or third PIP, then they'll send you a letter saying your PIP is due to run out. Please do the form again. So you have to do the booklet again, and try and remember, maybe even keep a copy of your first one so you can go back to it, or try and think of ways that maybe you've improved, or maybe ways that you've got worse. That for me, some of them had gone up, some of them had gone down, but overall I'd pretty much stayed the same. So that would be the second thing. Sorry, that would be the form again, and then you might have to have another assessment, and I did as well. So it's kind of similar. You just don't have to do that initial claiming on the phone, but you always have to do the form, and most likely for some you will have to do the assessment. So the assessment. Now this is run by Atos Healthcare, a private company. They are every time I've gone, they've actually been really great, really supportive, and but the assessments have not been so great. They have been very challenging, very hard, and you do feel like you're in there defending your illness. You feel like you're in there defending your how you live your day-to-day life, which is really unfair and really hard. But you are interviewed by a healthcare professional. I was interviewed the first time by a nurse, and the second time by a paramedic. Now both of them were very nice. I mean, well, I'm being nice now. The paramedic was really good. The first person I had, the nurse, was very abrupt and she didn't really make eye contact, and the whole time they just sit there typing, and they'll probably say, oh, stop, while they finish off whatever you've said, typing. So it does feel very impersonal, which makes it even more stressful. But try and get across, like you do in the form, how it affects you, how your disability or mental illness affects your day-to-day living and your mobility. It might not for everything. You might think, actually, yeah, most days I can do this, but other days I can't. So think about those other days. Again, not trying to cheat the system, not trying to say you should be trying to scam everyone or anything, like making stuff up. Do not make anything up, because then that isn't a very nice thing to do, because then you're putting it in a bad place for everyone else who really needs this. If you're making things up in order to claim benefits, then that isn't fair. But make sure you think about your worst day, and whether you have those very little or a lot. That's your worst day, and it may prevent you from doing certain things. So the first one was okay, but the second one I thought was better. He was much more approachable, he was much kinder, he was much, and he really saw my struggle. I was sitting there tapping and rocking with anxiety and, like biting my fingernails and really stressed out, and he was very aware of that and very supportive. So maybe things have changed. I mean, there was 2 years in between my first claim and my second claim. Do what you can to answer the questions and think about your worst day. So after the assessment, I will probably try and do a video as talk about the full assessment, but I want to do the whole thing here, and I appreciate that it's going to be quite lengthy if I go into too much detail. So after your assessment, they'll send you a letter saying thank you for coming to see us, and if you've seen any of my other videos about PIP, please check them out, they're in the description. You'll know that I received a great deal of many letters in between my assessment and the decision being made, even to the extent that they would say, we've made a decision, we'll let you know. That was one letter, and then they send another one saying, oh, I think no, the first one we require more information, then they didn't, and then they said we've made a decision, we'll let you know. And it's kind of like you feel like you're hanging on the edge, but that takes about 2 or 3 weeks as well, so don't expect it to happen overnight. Don't expect to have the assessment and then a week later have the answer. Some people are very lucky and that does happen, and I know some people who haven't even they've got the money go in their bank before they've even made a decision via either text or through a letter, sorry. If you aren't successful, you need to appeal. I'm going to put the link to doing appeals in the bottom, but I am going to do a separate video on that because I know people who have had to appeal, who have had to go through the same process again to make sure that they got their PIP. Now I hope that has explained the process a bit more. I hope it explains who is entitled to it and what help you can receive. I'm going to put all the information I've got from today in the space below, but contact things like your Citizens Advice Bureau, the Money Advice Service, Department of Work and Pensions, or even watch some videos on YouTube. I wish you all the best of luck claiming your PIP, and make sure you're doing it because you deserve it, not because you think you're entitled to it. Some people are entitled to it, but some people do abuse the system. So if you think, actually, do you know what, yeah, it would be a nice thing to have, but maybe I don't really fit the criteria, then that's fine. Maybe there's something else that you can claim. But if like me, you got to a point where you was really struggling with paying bills and making ends meet, then it was a really helpful thing for me. I've really benefited from it. It is a very long-winded process and can be very stressful, so just kind of go in there with that in the back of your mind, because it's not going to happen overnight. But when you do get the money, if you do get that decision, then I'm so happy for you. I'm really happy for you. If you're working through your PIP right now, good luck. Please let me know anything in the space below, guys. Share with me your experience or someone you care about's experience, and yeah, I hope this has been useful information. Please like and subscribe. Moving my papers. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Take care now. Take care, guys. Bye now.